Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's been a really long while since I've said that, but yes, I've just been a working adult and really busy, but I want to make a return, especially since I bought my new PC setup. But I've been having some technical issues with my PC, which kind of sucks, but it's in the computer shop and hopefully I can get it fixed. But I wanted to push out a video because I wanted to do one last legend climb. And I mean like one last as in like sweaty, like I'll still play RTA because like, you know, we love we love Epic 7. But yeah, like I want to get one more frame, so like I can't be called a one frame Andy, I'll just be a two frame Andy, you know what I mean? Anyway, the first game we pick ML Poly, but our opponent does like,
put y'all seatbelts on.
you know, disgusting Ranzio bullshit. So we get in the car, you know, put y'all seatbelts on. And then my opponent's like, oh, I want to get in the car too. So I'm like, okay, great, we're having a great old-fashioned return to form. So this is very me like 3 or 4 seasons ago, where I would pick a bunch of imprints and race ran cleavers for some reason. But we're different now because we actually know how to pivot out. And if you look at my opponent's team, his team's like kind of really weak to cleave, which I don't want to, I mean, to Kayron and like Aiden and counterattacks and stuff, which I don't want to deal with. He last picks DDR, so we're just gonna ban that. And I don't think this Shuri is actually geared, so I think I could have safely picked like 2 more imprints and have been just fine, because as long as nothing dies, it's not like anything on his team can cut me. But it's fine. We put all our eggs into the Aiden basket here. We are lifesteal. This is not Moonlight Dreamblade because I still do play aggro despite what you're seeing on the screen. So I do like it from time to time when my Aiden isn't just like dead outside of Zeo trapping. But yeah, we do some like weird Zeo trap here, I didn't realize, because we love our guiding light units, but we counter it. This Watcher Shuri was on geared, so it dies to the Aiden counter, which is incredibly funny. But since we are not on Sasha, it's not like we cut or anything. Rand is able to go, and we just have to hope he does an RNL here, because I think that's the only loss condition, is if Rand hits and then RNLs. But luckily there's no Rand never loses, so we're able to just open back up here onto the Zeo Rand cleaver. And this is the one weakness I think of Rand Zeo imprint cleaving, is that you kind of need a bridge or else you proc RNL, I guess that's your win condition, but that's a little bit too piggy for me, you know? But we punish the Ranzio player for being a Ranzio cleaver. Justice is good, and yeah. So this season I'm feeling pretty good. Like, if you all know, like my one set of speed gear is currently on Emma Politis, because I think Lua's fallen off in a big way unless you pre-ban Laya and own Emma Roana, and I'm not willing to do either of those. So our gear is going to live on Emma Politis for now, even though she's pre-banned by like half the ladder for good reason. Because if you've ever run into people who pre-ban Zeo Ran when their first pick and they first pick Emma Politis, it's like the most oppressive thing ever. So that's very unfun. But it's gonna be genuinely curious to see how they're gonna counter Emma Politis. I think this is either feminist or this is the one Alot's cleaver. Like, I'm not too sure, we'll have to see. But there's like a few of these like Korean server players who ban like the randomest thing. Like one of them bans Tamarin +1, I think, which is incredibly interesting. But they go for the Laya first pick, and like do not be fooled by this, guys. If you see anyone pre-banning like 2 very weird pre-bans like Tamarin plus Cecilia or whatever this guy pre-banned, this Laya is a racing Laya. Do not be fooled, because I fell for this trick like once or twice and never again. But yeah, that's my small nuggets of wisdom. It's like how everyone in Six Duck, back when you could see guilds, everyone in Six Duck except for Six Duck was a cleaver. So if you saw the guild Six Duck, you either prepared to first pick strays against Six Duck, or you either prepared to fight a cleaver. But my opponent decides to back down here, which is like incredibly boring. And this is the rare occasion where ML Poly and Genua are open together. So I'm obviously going to pick that, and I also pick ML Ludwasi because I need a way to kill Aiden because Shaltier's not in the game yet, which is very strange. Why did they let Albedo into the game but not Shaltier? Interesting. Questions that science can't answer. But I've heard Shaltier is kind of mid, so if you're looking forward to her kind of oof on that. But now that my opponent picks a bunch of boring snooze fest characters in the last few slots, I'm able to freely pick Anchor here. Like in this last slot, I could honestly have picked Arya. I could have picked, okay, maybe not Dark Harvest, but I could have picked Arya. I could pick DDR. I could pick Fumir if I really wanted to. But it's probably most likely going to get banned. And I already see a win condition for this in my weird non-cleave way. So what I'm gonna do here is I think I'm gonna go for a ban mid angle. Like Karina's a good pick here, like in theory. But since I forced drafting a force ban in the last slot, I can just go to ban mid. And now this team has no mid, which means it's actually a lot squishier than normal because Carmen on prot set gives like so much things. So remember, when you're in doubt, just ban mid and try to kill their team before their team kills you. But yeah, so how we're gonna play this game is that we can't actually let my opponent get any turns on Laya, because if he pushes up, my team is so squishy, they're gonna die to like any S1 from the enemy team. So as much as I want to S3, I actually I see a different angle. Like I'm gonna make a play here which I don't disagree with, which is I push back Laya and silence her. Oh no, I don't. Okay, I went for the greedy play. Okay, this was the play I was thinking of. So what I would have done, what I did here was that I dented Karina and softened her up, and then I soulburn on Emma Poly to push everything back. And now that I have an attack buff, we're able to press Ludwig S2 onto Ken. And I'm hoping with this enrage buff and 60% penetration, I'm able to like wipe this team with no mitigation. But my Ludwig has been sped up a lot to 265 for a reason you'll see soon. But basically, we don't have the damage to wipe out his team. Like, this kills Aiden, sure. But we get a lucky miss crit on Ken. So, like, lucky, quote-unquote. I think if I crit, I might have killed him. But basically, yeah, Karina's gonna go on to either Zio or Genoa. Both are valid options. My opponent chooses to go for Zio because it's gonna be difficult to kill Zio, and Zio's a damage threat. But Zio explodes to Karina, like we've seen this like 1,000 times. I'm gonna soulburn here because there's nothing else left to soulburn anymore. And the way that this interaction works is that if Genoa's immortality procs on his turn, he gets one more turn of it. So I'm safe for one more turn. We blow up the Laya here because we can't give his team too much tempo. And I actually go for the S1 onto Karina because since my Genoa has immortality, I'm not very afraid of these counterattacks. Like he tanks them like a champ. And this is why Genoa has some of my most he has my best set of DPS gear. But we get a lucky crit on, well, we blow up the ML because there's no mid, and then we get a lucky crit on Karina. But I feel like even if we missed there, Emma Politis could have just lapped and killed her eventually, because my Emma Politis is actually a tank, if you guys didn't know. Which is a really funny meme. Throwbacks from my Lua days where she would eat like an APOC S3 with 1 or 2 people dead from full health because she has a flat death ring and people did not expect it. But yeah, we're gonna move on to the next match. But this season I'm definitely skewing a little bit more into the cleave playstyle because it's just so strong, you know. Like I will definitely pivot. I'm not like some of the other cleavers out there because I know how to pivot, but I am very guilty of not pivoting a lot of the time because I just like to double down. So I get why people don't double down, but sometimes you just have to, you know. Anyway, my opponent first picks Laya, and Laya doesn't have too many great counters, as you guys know, but I am going to pick what I normally pick against Laya, is that I threaten the full cleave, because Laya is actually kind of weak to full cleaving, but Ran Zio is not as heavy of a committal as you'd think, because you can always pick something else, you know, because there's just so much flexibility in just having first turn and being able to get away with whatever. But I was actually thinking of picking Astromancer here. Okay, we pick Eternal Wanderer Ludwig just because it's a really, really good bridge off of anything, and then we can use Aiden's counterattack and Albedo's counterattack as a proc and then like wipe his team, you know. So that's always an option. Emma Ludwig gives me an option against, what's it called? What's her face? Albedo. And Genoa's always flexible. But yeah, this meta revolves a lot around Laya. All the cleave options, Emma Politis, and Genoa, because they've like really shaken up the meta. And for the, I wouldn't say the meta's figured out because there's a lot of like small techs, but it's like getting there. But basically, my opponent picked Sagi Balsac, which is really annoying. And they last picked Karina, like this is very standard stuff. So in the last pick, I'm gonna pick something that's gonna bait a ban here. So I geared a fast Emma Ludwig for a few situations, and this is one of them. So I bait that I'm gonna ban Sage Ball, and then I pick DDR because it would have let me just S3 Laya back, and then I would have just been able to DDR S3 and then kill the Laya off, and then I would win because like his whole team is DDR'd. But if you look at the CR bar, my Ludwig is actually faster than Sage Ball because most ER Sage Balls are, I like to say like 240 to 260 max. So I'm very confident that my Emma Ludwig should be able to cut. And since Emma Ludwig is able to cut, I actually don't care about the Sage Ball. Like, what is the Sage Ball gonna do? I'm gonna soften up Karina with my Zeo S3 and then press my Ludwig buttons and then blow up his entire team. And although this may look like a rough position because Sagi Balsac is able to go, his team is actually going to have a really hard time killing Genoa, so I'm not that, concerned. The Sagi Balsac is able to go for the S3, but joke's on him, my Ran is actually trash, so it has a lot of HP that it shouldn't. And we're now able to go and press S2, S3, and we would have just been able to, wipe his team. Like, Sagi Stage Ball dies to this S3 here, because he's so low and he didn't get a heal from Ran, and then I'm able to just S3 on Genoa and this Laya should die. My opponent knows this and taps out. But yeah, this is why you run a really fast Emma Ludwig. I think it's like very flexible, and although you'll notice the lack of damage sometimes, you get a lot more wins because it cuts very unexpectedly. But we're gonna move on to the next match. But yeah, so I've demonstrated how I've returned to form back to our aggro roots. This isn't cleave. This isn't cleave, guys. Like, despite the fact that the first two matches I picked a bunch of speed imprints, this is not cleave. Do not be fooled. But yeah, so I'm gonna demonstrate what I mean by you need to be flexible, and I think that's one of my biggest weaknesses last season was that I was very inflexible. So judging by my opponent's pre-bans, he doesn't really like super aggressive play, if that makes sense. So I first picked Laya because Laya is broken in standard. And my opponent interprets that as his offensive. And I was like, oh, no. We don't do that around here. So I'm actually going to pick a few rarer picks in this meta. But I need something that deals with DDR and Genoa, and one unit that fits the bill is, well, Moon Bunny lets me play aggressively into DDR because DDR can't actually press S3 and I have a good chance of outspeeding him. And then I also pick Pera because Pera is also really good into Genoa and also really good into DDR. And this leaves me in a position where I'm really flexible on my last few picks. I can pick Steny here, I could go into cleave by picking Ida +1 here, I could pick Emma Rowana here if I had her, but I don't, but I could. I could, okay, I was gonna say Arya, but maybe that's a little tough, but I was basically setting myself up for a Steny carry angle because Laya plus really high value S1s is really nice. So yeah, so my opponent has negative reach, so I'm free to pick my Steny here, +1. I don't think I can actually pick Emma Ludwig because I don't have any books already available, but I also see another angle for me. So if you look at my team, you'll notice that my team has a lot of attack buffs already and CR manipulation. So if I pick a DPS Sid, I can honestly kill Aiden through a miss and then kill DDR, and then Pera should be able to control the rest. So I pick Sid here, and then my other thought process is that oh, I'm gonna pick, what's it called, Steny, because Steny's still Steny. Steny is also really good at Genoa because we can just stun him before he procs, and that's always great. Or, you know, we could just let him go. Because General without Rage is not very threatening. And then I think my opponent overcommitted way too hard onto being anti, like, my first 3 units. So I'm able to pick counters on the last 4. And my opponent, I'm surprised, because I thought I was able to showcase how Sid can be played in standard, quote-unquote played. But, you know, it is what it is. We cannot rip Para S2 unless we like losing, and we like winning here on this channel, so we're just gonna press it. And I noticed that this DDR is not actually on Soul Constellation, so it means that this is either on Water's Origin or Potion Vial. So I fish for a counter here, and looking at that damage on DDR, I was like, oh, there's no mint. My City kills. My City has attack buff and pen set and everything, but then I forget that the sleep is taken off, so it doesn't count as a debuff for the extra S3 damage. Because on hit, like, they wake up, so I actually choke here, and this is why DDR lives. But it's fine because our Para is actually really talented, so we hold on to our mid. And my opponent's able to go, but we have like full immunity, so we don't care about the DDRS2, we don't care about anything else. It was a little bit of RNG, but if I was not greedy and I just soulboard into DDR, this game would have been over. So like, let's just call this a balancing of the scales. My opponent surprisingly starts to go into B-Dom, which I wasn't expecting, because B-Dom already did her job, you know? She already cucked DDR, so like, there's no reason for my opponent to kill B-Dom, but it's fine. I don't soul burn here because the second DDR takes a turn, he's gonna cleanse something, so there's no point in soul burning just in case. And we continue just hitting random stun targets with our S1s because we don't want anything to be cleansed, or we don't want anything to be procced on their side. My opponent now goes for the Elena S3, and this is where it turns, like, I turn this game around. So it looks really bad, but we go for the miss here, so we proc Aiden's counter, so she can't counterattack. They're like hyper fixating on B-Dom for some reason, so she dies, but I'm not gonna be too concerned about that. Genoa already used his skills and whatever, so my Laya's like sitting pretty, especially behind this para barrier, and now I'm able to rip my S2 because Elena doesn't have any more cleanses. And if I'm able to put unbuffable and stuff onto this team, it'll be huge for me. So we go, and then we actually go for the stun here onto Genoa because I want to proc him this turn. Because I'm not very threatened by his team because my Laya S3 is coming up. So as long as I get rid of this Genoa sooner than later, I should be good. And we're even able to push our CR up here. And he can go for the soul burn here onto Para, which I guess is a thing. But he chooses to go on Laya for some reason. I guess he was afraid of like Laya proccing soon, but I think the bigger issue is me getting attack buff again with soul burn on Steny. So we'll never know. But basically we start soul burning here. I need to kill DDR before he starts getting another round of skills because B-Dom is dead. But I also need to finish off this Genoa. So, because we don't want him to proc. And this Elena's a dead unit because like, what is she gonna do against Laya? So we S3 the DDR and remove it. Just kidding, I S3 Elena. Okay, it didn't matter. But basically, like, no matter what, I would have won. But yeah, pretty good, right? Always pivot, guys. Like, there is no reason to hyperfixate. Like, there's no reason to force anything when you know you don't have to. Like, don't put yourself into awkward, bad positions just because you feel like you have to, you know, always stick to cleave. You should remain flexible. The broken units are broken in every playstyle. You can play Laya and like anti-cleave if you wanted to. Genoa is good into like aggro, anti-cleave, a bunch of things, as long as you pick them in the right situation. So yeah, that's always something to keep in mind. Maybe I'm yapping, like, I don't know what's going on anymore. I'm losing control of my life, like, you know, very classical jam things. But yeah, if you're watching till here, like, thank you for the support. I knew I took a break. I think it's been like 6 weeks. I meant to take like a week break, and that turned into a month, and then it turned into like 6 weeks, so that's like not great. But we're back. We're gonna try for a last ditch legend climb. We're gonna try streaming again. Yeah. But yeah, for the last match of the day, I'm here to sell you my last MLM. So this tech has been around for a few seasons because I abused it a lot in my first legend season, especially against like slow turtles like Dam. Like they would get caught by this and they would die all the time to it, which I found incredibly funny. But since ML Politis is banned because like the entire ladder pre-bans her for some fucking reason, we're gonna pick Zeo first because Zeo's broken, and my opponent looks like they're speccing heavy into anti-cleave. So again, if my opponent sees Zeo and they go like 10 anti-cleave picks, why would you continue going cleave? You know what I mean? We're gonna pivot a little bit because Laya, not the best into Politis, but like doable, but like really good into Karina. And then Aiden, not the best into Karina, but doable and like really good into Politis. Like, do you see like my thought process here? And my opponent here is making the wrong decision. So they're tanking down like even harder when I'm already not cleaving. So that lets me do a lot of foolishness here. And the MLM I'm gonna sell to you is the effectiveness Ida. Like you already see me hovering it. It's kind of like F10A. Like you could pick F10A really easily into the slot and it would do like basically the same thing because it just CCs the enemy team. But she has a few benefits because she stuns, and stuns and redirected provokes are slightly different because I think stuns are slightly better depending on the situation. I mean, it's all situational. But I also last pick Ludwig just because I'm threatening, like, you know, like what's it called, a bridge, and my opponent can last pick anything. Here I'm either okay, so I picked Ludwig because I want to threaten something that threatens Tenny. Yeah, that's why I picked it. And my opponent can pick anything in the last slot. I was pretty much gonna ban it anyway. My opponent decides to ban Laya because Laya can cleanse and stuff, but I actually am not going for the Emma Ludwig. Like, Emma Ludwig is a backup dancer. Like, the main star of the show is actually Steny. Because, I mean, not Steny, is Ida. Because a lot of the time, Karinas are built like at 130 ER to resist, but my Ida should have enough effectiveness to resist that. But basically, we let Zeo rip here. We try to strip escort. We don't want to proc anything. So we just want to take like small chunks off of stuff. Oh, we S3 Politis, my bad. Like, I'm yapping. Like, you know how it is. The way out. I S2 here. And look at that. Everything's getting stripped. And this looks really bad for my opponent because if my Ida is able to stun here and everyone skips a turn on the enemy team, like, this guy is done. Because what this lets me do is this prevents Karina from destroying one of my, well, basically Emma Ludwig. And since everyone's stunned, I just have free impunity to rain down on my opponent's team. But yeah, look at that. Effective Zeta, really good, unexpected. Like, people don't expect it. A lot of people are too used to the age-old damage Rans, not the damage Idas that are used to bridge, but Ida's a CC bot, so I would highly recommend. But yeah, if you're still here, like, thanks. Don't forget to leave your comment about how I'm finally uploading after 2 years. Like, Brian, if I don't see your comment under my video saying the yearly jam upload is here, I'll be really sad. But I'm glad to be back and hope you enjoyed the video.